Welcome to the Everyday GSD podcast, Las Vegas. Yes, that's right, Las Vegas. First, I want to thank our sponsor, Good Dudes Coffee, gooddudescoffee.com. That's where you get your coffee. Josh Bridges was episode 31. You have to check it out. Awesome dude. He's a veteran, owns his coffee company. Go there, get your coffee. Everyday GSD 10 for the discount code. Trust me, you're not going to want to not drink this coffee if you want a little pep in your step. Okay. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Gonzo Greg.
Hey.
Thanks for joining on the Everyday GSD podcast, Las Vegas.
Thanks for the invite, man.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to actually be in a different studio. And I've got a what did I say, a dossier? What were we talking about earlier on you? Pages of info.
Am I being served papers? I should know
Yeah.
that. Right.
So, to be honest with you, instead of me going through all of your history, because I think that would probably be most of the show.
Pretty boring.
Not boring at all. I think it's actually impressive. I'm just going to jump into, I think it's kind of cool that, first of all, you've been in radio for a long time. I'll let you explain all that.
Let's let that lay there.
Yeah, we don't have to say the exact amount of years. You're originally from Massachusetts.
Right. Yep.
But you've done radio in L.A., Indiana. Mm-hmm. Ironically, we're in Las Vegas, and we're interviewing you, and you're not at our studio back in Indiana, which is kind of funny. But we've had several guests in your field. One was episode 6 with Christy Lee, who I believe was in an office right down from you.
Yeah, we worked next door to each other.
The Bob and Tom show. Mm-hmm. And then
the bigger, meaner show, as we used to call it.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll talk about that. And then Joni Michaels.
Right.
I think that was episode 10.
Well, okay.
Is that right, Justin? Yeah, episode 10. And then, of course, the Smiley Show, which I don't know if you worked down the hall from him, but you obviously
not exactly, no.
But you obviously know that show.
Yes.
And I'm actually going to put this away because I'll get distracted and I'll want to keep looking at it because you've been doing radio for a while and you've got so many cool stories. I'm just going to say, let's just jump into this, man.
All right.
Again, thank you so much for being on the show, and I'm excited to hear your journey. Obviously the show is about people getting shit done, everyday GSD.
Right.
And clearly you're in an industry that is a difficult industry to be in for a long time, let alone a full career.
Right. Yeah, I would recommend to anybody, don't get into entertainment. Just run away, get into something guaranteed, like, I don't know, be a mortician.
Mortician.
What's guaranteed? Death, absolutely. Do death 100%. Go
death
for
and
it.
taxes.
Right, yeah. Either tax accountant or mortician. Those are the two career choices I would recommend for anybody right now, yeah.
I love it. So what got you into radio?
Oh,
I mean, you grew up in you were born or grew up in Cape Cod?
Cape Cod, yeah.
Yeah, Massachusetts.
Right.
I used to live in Boston with my wife.
No
it's
kidding.
a great area.
Yeah, it is. It took a while to lose the accent there.
Quarter for some water.
Yeah, wicked pissa and all that. But I was 8 years old, and my dad took me. He owned a motorcycle shop, and he wanted to buy some radio ads for his motorcycle shop. Took me to the radio station. While he was looking to buy ads, and I was like, "This is the coolest thing." Can we cuss on here?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, lots of pent up.
I don't know. We're in Las Vegas. Are we allowed to say shit?
Oh, fuck yeah. A lot of 30 years of self censorship on the radio. So I'm like, this is the coolest thing in the world, being a DJ. He's all these buttons and knobs and lights and wires and tapes and records and stuff. And so I was like 8 years old. I'm like, that's what I'm gonna do.
So 8 years old, you made a decision in life.
A bad decision, but a decision nonetheless. And ended up sticking with it. And ended up eventually community college so I could get an internship at a radio station. That was my door in.
So how did you find your way? How did you find yourself out in Los Angeles? Because obviously Los Angeles, and we've got some episodes that we're going to be recording out there here coming up shortly.
Right.
But this is it's a tough world out there.
Yeah.
In any kind of the acting, the TV, the radio, any entertainment,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, and all these kids that want to be YouTubers now. That's even more. There's so many channels. There's 11 billion. There's endless channels now. So the competition is huge. But I ended up in LA because my folks split up. So broken home, that explains a lot of wanting to be accepted by strangers, I guess.
Right.
So my dad moved to LA. And so I had to get off Cape Cod. This is boring as hell. Let's go to L.A. It's Disneyland every day.
Yeah.
So
literally.
So I ended up going to high school out there.
Okay.
So that's how I.
So where'd you end up going to high school? Where were you in high school?
I went to a private prep school, Chadwick School in Palos Verdes.
Okay.
Brandon Lee from the Crüe was our class president.
Yeah.
I went to school with him, and
he was your class president. Sorry.
Yeah.
I had pictures of that dude posted in my freshman dorm room. Everyone thought I was so
really
odd. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was our class president. Yeah.
Wow.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So he's the class president. Was he acting at this point?
He was acting. Yeah. He was the lead in our presentation of Fiddler on the Roof in 1982. Imagine Brandon Lee and Fiddler, right? So yeah, he was the lead. So he was acting at that time.
And then were you pursuing radio at that time? Because I have this and I don't want to say, and I don't think it's just me, but I feel like when I think of individuals, kids growing up in LA or in Hollywood, that they, you grow up in a football town in the Midwest, you want to play football, right? I feel like kids in LA, they see the bright lights all the time, and it's like that's what they want to do.
Or don't.
Or don't.
They go the opposite way. Maybe. I moved there. I was a transplant. So.
Yeah. So you were like, I love this shit.
Right. Yeah. I was into it. Well, I was working stage crew. I was working at the movie theater at the time. I was in high school, and I was a Rocky Horror kid. So that was, I guess, my theatrical.
Wasn't that like Quentin Tarantino? He was the same thing, right? Didn't he work at a theater?
A video store.
Video store. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm putting these puzzles together, Justin.
So yeah, that was my high school experience, and then going to a very fancy prep school, and my dad was traveling a lot for work, and so I stopped going to school because it was boring.
Right.
And that was irritating to my dad because he was paying a lot of money for me to go to this
not
school.
Cheap.
So he got a little pissed off and threw me out, and then I spent several years.
And how old were you about this time?
16.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
So where does a kid that gets thrown out at 16 go when you're living in LA?
You couch surf a lot.
Yeah.
Hang out at the bus stop, stay up all night at Denny's.
Yeah.
Whatever works.
Right.
So and punk rock was exploding then. So that was early 80s. Yeah, checking out all the bands and everything was just going crazy. So
right.
Yeah, it was an interesting few years.
So you get your first job in radio. What is it like? What are you doing? You're like
I was interning at this radio station, KNAC in Los Angeles.
And this is why you went and got an associate's degree?
Yeah, I got my AA so I can intern. And so I was interning at this radio station. It was an alternative rock station at the time. It's kind of an also-ran to K-Rock in LA. So we were playing a lot of the same music, a lot of the new wave stuff that was going on at the time.
And you were the first one to play, was it...
it was Motley Crüe.
Motley Crüe.
Not the first Motley Crüe album. It was the Girls, Girls, Girls album. They brought it in a test pressing. But so at the time, the station was alternative.
We'll talk about that after.
Right, and
Sorry.
They blew up the format.
Right.
So I was working there as an intern, and all the alternative guys playing the new wave music either quit or just got fired or whatever. And
right.
So somebody didn't show up for work one night, and I got to go on the air. And so that's
so literally someone didn't show up to work. You had this window of opportunity. You're like, I can do it.
Here I am.
And
yeah. So I went on, did overnights, and that was my first shift was an overnight shift on Friday night, Saturday night, something like that.
And back then, at this point, are you playing the music you want to play?
No, I hated metal. I was punk rock, and I'm like, I get to be on the air, and I'm waiting for Iron Maiden Run to the Hills to end. I'm playing the live version. It's like 12 minutes long, getting ready to. And I had to pick my name because we had a Storm and Norman and a.
And what was your name at that time?
I didn't have a radio name.
But you made one up on the spot?
I was like looking around the room. We had a little Godzilla figurine. It was this close to being Godzilla Greg. But then I remembered Hunter S. Thompson and my love of Fear and Loathing, one of my favorite novels of all time. And so I just Gonzo and turned on the mic.
So that you had that name from the jump.
That was from my first professional, out of college radio. I forgot what I was called. I was just Greg.
Did you know that, Justin?
I did not know that, but I like it.
Yeah.
So in an instant I was Gonzo Greg, and that was off to the races from there. So
you're doing night. You're working the night shift. You're playing music you don't really particularly like,
right?
But you're GSDing because you're like, this is what I want to do.
This is what I do, man.
This is what I do.
Yep.
So then what happens?
Let's see. Did that for a while. I was working overnights, and then they liked my stupid jokes, and I got moved up to the 7 to midnight shift, which I did for a long time.
And when you say stupid jokes, were they kind of like off like they weren't your basic jokes? They were like kind of little, I don't know if the word's off color, or a little risque.
I guess. I mean, yeah, I don't know. They were topical. They were basically one-liners because I'm talking over the intros to these records and stuff. Right. And, you know, I would sit and write. I had a huge ass electric typewriter, and I'd actually sit down and type out jokes, which was unheard of in my field, in the rock radio field, I think. So, yeah, just trying to be topical and make jokes. And, you know, the main thing that made that radio station, so when it became pure rock, KNAC, and all the heavy metal kids.
Do you hear his voice, Justin?
Right, KNAC.
Yeah. Say it again.
I can't now. Yeah. So I broke it. But it was the listeners were what made that station, you know, because it was the only place to get this music. It was the only, you know, radio station, rock station in LA playing Iron Maiden and Ozzy and Megadeth, and then Metallica happened. And,
right.
You know, it was huge. And then hair metal came along, and the thing just went off the charts. So, yeah, it was just mostly talking to crazy people on the phone.
Right. People, you're calling them, or they're calling in.
They're calling in,
and they're asking to play a certain song.
Yeah, play the song, and I'm here, and I'm doing this to this girl, and you know, it was crazy. I mean, it was the 80s, man, and the metal scene was nuts. Yeah. It was fun as hell.
I can only imagine being on the air, and people are calling in, telling you to play a song because maybe they're doing whatever.
They want to do what they want to do, yeah. And I felt like, you know, they talk about imposter syndrome these days, and I was total imposter. You know, I was this punk rock kid playing, you know, all this metal music, and actually ended up loving it. You know, you get immersed in the culture and the whole scene, and it ended up being fun as hell. So
how long were you at that station for?
Probably about 5 years. 5 years, I think, on the air.
Okay.
Getting paid to do it.
And then how is that normal? Because I feel like when Dave was on the show and Chrissy Lee was on the show, it's pretty rare that they stay with the same radio station for so long.
Especially these days, since, you know, the radio business is consolidated and they change format every 10 minutes, you know, so you're in and out. Typically, being a DJ, you're a nomad. Right. That's a given. But I think more so even nowadays, those of us that are left. Right. You know, there's not many.
And so 5 years-ish.
That was it was a good run
so where did you go from there?
I got shit canned there and
shit canned.
Ended up going to Philadelphia.
How come you got fired?
The new boss didn't like me. Yeah. So.
Were you doing things that it wasn't what the new boss wanted, or?
She didn't kind of like my stuff, and I'd gotten bumped up to the morning show, and was really green. And I was working with my buddy Stu, and we were trying to figure things out, and they didn't want us to be figuring things out on the morning show. So they said, why don't you go? So, I ended up, I got a huge break and ended up on WMMR in Philadelphia, the rock station. And they are still around, one of the few major old, you know, stations that are still around.
So did they reach out to you, or did you reach out to them?
You send out a million tapes and resumes, and I got a kind look from Joe Bonadonna, the program director there, and he said, this kid is kind of weird, and, you know, it's the fresh blood that this classic rock station needed. So this is 1990, and hair metal was about to take a nosedive. Grunge, you know, Pearl Jam and Nirvana had just shown up, and so these rock stations are going, now what the fuck do we do? And so let's get a young kid in here, and they put me on at night and at MMR for a while. So
now we're in the early 90s, right? So at this point, how many musicians, stars that had you met any of them, or were you able to, like, did they come to your radio station?
Yeah, a lot. At KNAC, that was the place, that was the station to come to. If you were in the hair metal, if you were in metal at all, I mean, like Metallica and our radio station were like this.
Really?
You know, yeah.
Do you have any good stories about
Not so much with Metallica.
Or any.
Motley, Crüe, Darin. I mean, they all came in, you know, whenever they had a new record or something, and we did these live broadcasts and stuff that I'll hear tape and go, oh my God. I have no recollection of that ever happening, but there's tape. There it is. So lots. I know I met lots of people, but don't remember a lot of it. But I know it was fun.
So did you have a lot of freedom when you're so obviously, if you guys are partying on the air or off the air, then going on the air, did you have a lot of freedom with the radio station? Would they kind of just turn an eye and say, "Listen, you're bringing in these people," and like.
And well, no, for me, like I said, I wasn't really the metal guy, so I let them, tell me what to play. I'll play it, and so that was a kind of a load off,
right?
Because I was an alternative guy. Had it been an alternative station, I would have got all, in my own head about the music,
right? Right.
So that took a whole load off, and I'm like, okay, well, let's just do this and have fun with it. So I think the station overall was very communal in terms of I think we all were working towards a goal. We knew what we wanted, and we knew where we wanted to be, and we didn't want to be posers, right? Because that was death.
And did management share that goal and that vision with you?
Yeah.
Because when we talk about everyday GSD, obviously, when you have a good team that's working with you, if you share your vision and you share what you're trying to do, it's much easier to accomplish that goal.
Absolutely. Right. That was radio in the olden days.
Right.
So moving forward as consolidation happened and these companies could own all the radio stations and words like synergy started getting thrown around and, just this corporatization of radio just became so huge, and that's when the common goal kind of dissipated, and it just became, the goal was increase shareholder value. It used to be appeal to the listener, talk to the listener, be on point with the listener. It was all about super serving your core audience. You have an image in your head of who you're talking to when you're talking to them. And then, really, it drifted away from that and it said, keep the stock price up.
Right.
And that's really what it came down to.
Yeah,
so,
it's crazy if you think about it. So you're going back to Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
So how long were you there?
Not long. A couple years.
Okay.
Yeah, till about 93. And a friend of mine
got fired.
No, actually, this is probably another one of my dumb moves. Everything I say, do the opposite of.
It's easy, right?
Right. Yeah.
Story of my life.
Right. Yeah. Everything I did was wrong. A friend of mine from the KNAC days was running a radio station up in Minneapolis, and he kept trying to get me to move to Minneapolis and do the morning show there. And I'm like, there's no amount of money in the world that you can give me to live in, the North Pole.
Yeah.
And finally, he came back with an amount of money that made it worthwhile. I'm like, okay,
and there you are hanging out with Santa.
Nuts, and here I am in Minneapolis, St. Paul,
at
a station called 93X. So Greg Steele made me move there.
Right.
And
this is are we still in heavy metal or no?
This was a kind of one of those kind of hybrid.
Did we get to go to punk rock or no?
Not ever really, no. No, I think Indianapolis was kind of like the station 93X. We played rock and we played a little bit of alternative, and it was kind of walking that line,
Yeah.
93X doing mornings there for about 10 minutes. And the guy that owned the station by the name of David Field.
This is up in
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm following the path here.
Yeah, so no, it's a
I'm on a snowmobile right now going with you.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I need a snowmobile suit to work here. So the guy that owned the station, David Field, I remember sitting down at dinner with him, and he's like, yeah, we're going to bring you in the morning show, and this is my dad's station when I was growing up, and I will never, ever sell this thing. And then 3 months in, he sells it to ABC, and he starts... Entercom, which is the company that later became Odyssey, which recently just declared bankruptcy after buying all the radio stations in the world and becoming this huge corporate monster that it couldn't sustain itself. But
And do you think that hurt the radio industry?
Or tremendously.
Explain that.
Just the consolidation of it.
Right.
The companies only used to be able to own a small number of radio stations, so the focus was small.
Because it was regulated like that?
Yeah, it was regulated. FCC, the regulations were you could only own so many stations, and so it kept it in human proportion. Here's what we're going to earn. And these companies that wanted to take it huge and they wanted to play the stock market.
Right.
It wasn't about creating radio or entertainment for people. It was about playing the stock market, and that ended up, I think history is showing that it failed pretty miserably.
Yeah. So when you look at a radio station that's out there right now, I'll use the in Indianapolis Dave Smiley show. Mm-hmm. How is his show surviving, and all these other shows are not?
He was in a good spot. He was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Which is a big part of what it comes down to.
But are they owned by like one of these big?
Let's see, who owns them?
I mean, if you were
Are they Cumulus? I don't.
Yeah, I think maybe. I forget.
It was ZPL, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I think that might be Cumulus. So.
So you're up north for 10 minutes.
Yeah. So then
the snow started coming.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I'm going back to fucking LA.
So I was like, damn you. Hired me here. And so we're all, the whole station's out of work and we're all at the unemployment office together. And so, after that, it was just.
Did you really go to the unemployment office?
Yeah, I ran into my boss there. We stood in line together to fill out our papers. So.
Were you like, you fucking jerk?
Yeah, you son of a bitch. Man, I still love him. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He went on to great things. He worked for Sirius XM for a while. So,
okay.
Yeah. So after that it was just nonstop move. I went to Louisville, Kentucky for a few minutes and was down there for a couple of years. Ended up back in California at a great station, KCAL in Riverside.
KCAL?
Yeah, Riverside, San Bernardino. Did that for a bit. And then.
How long were you out there?
A couple of years.
Did you like going back out to California?
Yeah, it was great to be back close to family
you're like
and stuff.
Back home,
yeah.
really.
Mm-hmm.
Even though obviously Massachusetts was home, but you all.
Oh yeah, California's kind of home for me.
Yeah,
because you go to high school. I think is kind of where you end up calling home. At least for me.
Yeah, I think that's what I say too.
Yeah. So I was there for a while, and I got shit canned there, and ended up in Detroit.
So I got to go back because you're getting fired on.
I can shoot by all this Midwest stuff.
So what got you fired there?
There was a better, more classic rock guy that they wanted to put on. So
okay.
Yeah.
Do you believe he was a better classic rock guy?
I'm gonna say yes. Yeah, he was.
He's not watching this show. You can tell me he sucked.
Yeah, no, I will not.
It's not that kind of show.
No, he just passed away. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we didn't have a great relationship, but I appreciate what he did and who he was and all that. So safe travels, Gino Michelini.
Gino.
Gino, yeah.
Speaking of passed away, were you close with Joey Deuce? Hagen? He was the afternoon guy on the X1.
No, I kind of left as he was coming in. Yeah.
Did he pass away too?
Yeah, he passed.
Did he?
Yeah, we became best friends. He managed my band for a long time, and he passed away a couple years ago.
Oh wow, I didn't.
This show just changed what we're talking about.
Wow, damn.
Yeah, I thought you guys were kind of like overlapping.
Yeah, we kind of crossed paths. Yeah. So, but anyway, at KCAL, they tried to make it more modern rock for a while, and that really went against the grain, especially out there in San Bernardino, where everybody's like raw.
Yeah.
So I think they decided to go back to original KCAL, and they said, why don't you just go?
Right.
Yeah.
And so then you went to
Detroit for a little while. Was up there for a while, and I think that was my last stop before Indianapolis. So
okay. Mm-hmm. And how long were you in Detroit?
A few years.
Did you like Detroit?
I like the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gets a bad rap.
I think it does.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, when I moved out west, I've been to Detroit obviously a bunch of times, and I've always had a good time there.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, obviously there's areas you don't want to go. I mean, just like there's areas in Indianapolis you don't want to go, and there's areas in every city you don't want to go.
Sure, but it's got heritage. It's certainly got soul, and it's a good town. It's got good bones.
Yeah. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you leave Detroit, and then that's when you make your way down to Indianapolis.
Made it to Indianapolis. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long is that? Where you met Justin?
Yep, I think so. Yeah.
Boy, we just went full circle out here in Viva la Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So how long were you in Indianapolis for?
I think it was about 5 years. Yeah, 2000 to 2005.
And that's when you're working down the hall from Christy Lee.
Yep. So interestingly,
which is the Bob and Tom show.
Bob and Tom show, the bigger, meaner show, which we affectionately call them.
Yeah.
They weren't. They were bigger, but they were certainly not meaner. They were very kind to us. And it was funny that I ended up working next door to them because when I left Louisville, I left because I was replaced by the Bob and Tom show on the radio
that's
station.
funny.
Yeah, in Louisville.
The Bob and Tom show is actually how we met. I was producing a film at the time called Saving Star Wars.
Okay, yes.
And we brought Dave Prowse on to their show, and they had the studio next door. So we were like, I'm like, hey, man, you want to interview Darth Vader? And he's like, yeah,
hell yeah. You get to talk to Darth. You have him on. Yeah.
Oh, that is super cool.
It was very, very, very cool.
So you leave Detroit, now you're in Indianapolis, but then you got replaced by the Bob and Tom show in Louisville. Previously. Right. And then when you walked into the office and the Bob and Tom show were in the same building, did you know that before you walked in?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if that's a surprise.
I had a lengthy,
all of a sudden your hands get all clammy and you get a little lump and you're like, oh, I'm gonna fucking burn this place down.
I'm in the same building with the FPQ. I know exactly where I am. And
yeah.
So many a morning standing at the urinal next to Bob and or Tom. And Just how's it going? Good. Doesn't it ever get any easier? No, it doesn't. So, yeah, 4 a.m. just.
Yeah.
So, but I had a lengthy conversation with the general manager who's like, there's going to be limousines in the parking lot, and you need to know that they're not for you. They're not for your show.
Is that for real?
Yeah, he really said that to me.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
So, we had a really good run in Indianapolis. We had a really good show, and I chalk it up to the guys I got to work with Don Stuck and Beau Asner, and it was just this weird chemistry that happened. They were there. They brought me in, and they're like, "Here's the guys you can work with." I'm like, "Okay."
Right.
And they're like, all right, who's this queer? and we made it work. It was
Because I remember you had like really long hair. It was like
really
purple
long.
or red. Or you had colored hair.
Yeah, it was when I got there. It was really long and stringy and blonde, and it's been weird and odd ever since.
It's red and black and
red and black, and there may be silver in there, but we don't talk.
We call
about
it platinum.
Right? Yeah. Right on. So it was. We ended up having great chemistry, and it was. Fucking blast every morning.
I love it.
Yeah,
and I feel like listening to you talk about it, I can feel it like when you're talking about that, as opposed to a couple of the other places you might have rolled through real quick.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, there was that ended up being a really great thing.
Yeah,
it was really good. And then corporate, downsizing started, and so we lost Beau. They took him off the air. Budget. Right. And then the next round of budget
because they're cutting costs because they're needing to meet numbers.
Debt. Yeah, we got debt from buying all these stations.
Yeah,
and the projections were not accurate.
Yeah, so, not correct.
Yes, there was incorrect revenue projection. So, that's the story everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, so many businesses, but particularly in radio.
Yeah, that's what I mean when I've talked to some of the radio people. This is a new world to me since I've been doing podcasting now for a little while, and I've had the privilege to interview some other radio, good names like yourself. And it's interesting because when I hear some of these stories, I'm like, I don't think the listener have any idea what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, well,
I mean, I think you guys probably think they do to some degree, but I don't really think they do.
Well, I think a good talent exposes a lot of their actual self on the air. I think that's what connects you to the audience. But in terms of talking about the nuts and bolts of how radio works, I think it's boring as hell. It's interesting to other radio people, I think.
Yeah, or how cutthroat it potentially can be.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, you mentioned Dave Smiley. We had a pretty good pissing match going on when I was in town. So I think like his website, his domain name expired, and I bought it. And directed it to our website.
I love that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to tag this. We're gonna make this into a reel and make sure we tag Dave so he can see. He
there
can hear
were
this.
Some nasty letters from lawyers, and I said, "I'm sorry. Here's your domain back." Yeah. So silly stuff like that has been going on in radio for years. You let the air out of the other van's tires at the the state fair or whatever. It's silly, but
just for fun.
It's for fun.
Yeah. No real hard feelings.
Nah, we're all in the same stupid business. So
So you leave Indianapolis?
So I got downsized there and sat around for a little while, and they started up. I finally got a job at an alternative station here in Las Vegas. So
then you came to Las Vegas.
Yeah, so the very beginning of 2006.
Yep. Oh, so you've been out here for I guess
18 years.
Yeah. So that's the longest place you've been.
Yeah. This is the longest I've lived anywhere in my life.
Yeah. So let's talk about Las Vegas and you and what you do here.
Love it here. So that station lasted for a while. And then it got bought by another company, and they changed the format, and I was gone, and then I came back, and then I was gone again. So it's been a strange trip, but I think Las Vegas is I'm parking it here. I think unless something amazing comes along. But.
Right. And so what are you doing right now?
Right now, I work for a group of radio stations called Highway Radio, and they've been around forever, and they're out in the desert. So when you drive from L.A. to Vegas. Back in the day, they were the only thing out there. You'd get out of L.A. and the stations would all fade out, and the only stations out there were these highway stations. And they're still on the air, still doing the same thing, talking about here's what you do in Vegas when you come out here. So now I'm the VP of programming for these stations out there. So there's a pop station and a country station and a rock station that I'm working on right now, which I've kind of resurrected the spirit of KNAC, the heavy metal station I used to work at back in the day. So it's kind of a time capsule of that right now. So we're playing Metallica and Def Leppard and Warrant and Poison and Guns N' Roses and all that stuff. And so you turn it on and it takes you right back to 1986. And
all the stuff you were playing before.
Yeah, it's a mind fuck. It's really wild to listen to. So
and how much has technology changed in your job? And I don't want to say since the 80s, because obviously that's a silly question, but with the stations, as they keep getting purchased and bought out, are they putting money into equipment and technology, or are they just kind of gobbling up these small companies?
They're putting money into technology that allows them to not have people. So lots of computers, and I think AI, you're going to, I mean, you're already hearing robot voices on commercials all the time now.
Right.
I have part of my business these days is voiceover and doing commercials and stuff. And a lot of my clientele was really low-hanging fruit, doing explainer videos for the internet. This is Bob. Bob has a problem. If only Bob could reach more people on his podcast. Here's what Bob should do. And now people just use AI to voice those.
Right.
And I could knock out 10 of those at $100 in a week and be, go to the liquor store and be good to go.
Be good to go.
Right. And now that's dried up.
Right.
So they invest in technology that where they don't have to pay health insurance, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the technology allows us.
And do you like the technology?
I mean, I'm a tech nerd. I mean, I had an Apple II in high school,
Right.
So yeah, I love the machines. They hate me. We fight all the time. But I think that it allows us, if you allow people to use the technology, we can do amazing stuff.
Right.
It allows quality to talent to be on a lot of different radio stations. Voice tracking, the thing where one DJ comes in and spends 15 minutes recording a 4-hour show. This is WXYZ,
Right.
I mean, you knock that out like that and it sucks, but we all have 48-track recording studios on our lap right now. And if you take a little bit extra time and you can produce amazing stuff and voice track that and have an amazing product on the radio. You have an opportunity to drop in sound bites and do a sound clip and here's this and stuff that took enormous amounts of tape cartridges and stuff that you used to have to juggle and to do live, and now you can do it on your laptop and record it and load it up and have it play on the air, and you create interesting radio that has depth.
And sometimes you're doing this because I have a friend, Joey Dorenzo. I went to high school with him. He's a DJ in Vermont.
Okay.
His radio name, I think that he's got a couple, but I think one's Joey Vega.
All right.
But again, I'll say, hey, I'm going to be up in Vermont. Do you want to go snowboarding? And he's like, okay, I can get out at this time. But then I'll be in the car hearing him on the radio.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, I know he's driving to meet me.
Right, yeah.
And I have to assume that's a benefit.
Well, yeah, it allows you. Yeah, I think. But you're seeing a lot of the creativity exploding in podcasting.
Right.
And people that are doing creative podcasting in radio theater type stuff. Going back to what radio was before television came along and made radio play records to survive.
Right.
So I think there might be a future for broadcast radio to do more programming, create something rather than just playing records all the time. Nothing wrong with that if you have something fun to say between the records or talk about the records or have the people that are listening with you on the radio with you screaming and yelling and having fun. But if it's just a computer spitting out a playlist, I mean, you got that on your phone.
Right.
You don't need that on the air.
Yeah. I mean, but there's something I feel like there's something, I don't know if as I get older, like nostalgic to be able to.
Oh, yeah. Nostalgia. That's why I'm doing this heavy metal station out in the desert.
Yeah.
It's just, you turn it on and, Motley Crüe comes out of the radio in 2024. You're like, the fuck?
Yeah. So you like what you're doing right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the pay scale is significantly less than it used to be. And we used to say in radio it was a license to print money. What do? You sell airtime. How bizarre is that?
Right.
But yeah, I wouldn't still be doing it if it wasn't fun.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, that's the thing.
And for the audience, when you say you're selling airtime, you're literally selling airtime.
Yeah. Well, commercials. Spot sales. We'll sell you 60 seconds to talk about your thing on the radio. Here's how much it costs. So.
Yep. And then you're going to go and play a bunch of music in between those commercials.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but now there's more commercials than there are music. So it's just the value proposition for the listener has gone to hell.
Someone that has your expertise, which clearly you've been doing this for a while, and you've in my opinion, you've been good at what you do.
Well, thank you.
What do you think AI?
It's frightening. It has great potential. It's frightening. I think a lot of people say it's gonna explode the world on us, which it very well might. But I think the bigger danger is it's gonna kind of stupefy us, and it's eating itself. I don't know if you've seen the pieces where it talks about that the data sets that they train AI on, if it starts ingesting its own output, so AI content has gone out there, and now as it's trolling the internet and relearning, it's
learning from itself.
It's learning, so you're getting a Xerox of a Xerox of a Xerox, and it drives it insane from what I've read. Right. So the whole system starts to break down as it ingests its own output.
Right.
It's kind of like drinking water in Las Vegas. It all comes from Lake Mead, and they pump it out of Lake Mead, and it goes in your faucet, and you drink it out of a glass, and then you pee it in the toilet, and the toilet dumps back into Lake Mead.
Right. I mean, really.
Right. I don't care how much you filter it; it's still going around in a circle. So I think as AI, we have these radio companies that are going to use AI to choose which records to play. And it's been trained on a data set over the last 10, 15 years where radio has been really crappy. And so it's learned from a crappy data set, and then it's going to just keep generating. AI is going to generate us into this list of best practices for every field. But for radio in specifics, it's looking at what we've been doing, which has not been very good. There's nothing creative. There's no creative spark. There's no weirdness from out of left field to just make everybody go, what the hell? You know? And maybe it's weird and just needs to go away. But weirdness...
But I mean, AI is never going to go away, right?
AI is not going to go away, but it doesn't have a potential to get weird. You know, it needs... It can't
get unique.
It needs some sort of injection, to have it considered unique and new ideas. That's where new ideas come from, is from weirdness. Right. And some weird ideas are bad. But occasionally there's a weird thing they're like, huh, all right, yeah, let's check this out, see where this goes. So.
Yeah, I guess I never thought of that like that.
I think that, AI is the danger of AI is it's going to bland us to death. And
then it's a vicious cycle, right? Because, like you said, the Lake Mead example, you drink the water that comes from Lake Mead, then you use the toilet and you go pee in, and it goes out, and there eventually, no matter how many times you clean the water, eventually you're not having pure water.
Yeah, you still got to be something we haven't discovered how to filter in there that we haven't even thought of.
Or or you're drinking just more chemicals to filter the water, which is really when it used to just be like clean water.
The Xerox of a Xerox thing was, I got to credit Eric of the Fuglies, Indianapolis band.
Fuglies, shout out.
Fuglies rock.
Yeah.
He was talking about punk rock and new pop punk and bands, not necessarily Green Day, but probably post Green Day.
Okay.
So pop punk bands that are kind of a Xerox of punk bands. And they just keep, re-Xeroxing until if you send something through the copier enough times, it doesn't.
It's just not as clear.
It's something blurry. It's vaguely familiar, but not quite right.
Yeah,
kind of like that.
Geez, that's pretty deep if you think about it. Because I'm thinking about, just using, because you try to use AI, or you try to stay away from it, but then other people are using it, so you try to jump on the AI train, regardless of what industry or what business you're in.
Right.
But then what you're saying makes so much sense, and I just have a feeling a lot of people aren't thinking like that.
It's a great tool. I mean, it's a great tool for mundane tasks,
right?
Or refining. I mean, here's the sad thing: refining your resume. Okay, for radio, to get a job in radio, every monkey would send his tape and resume to the radio station. And so the program director's got a stack of tapes and resumes, and they're all the same, but the key was sending something different that would break through.
Right.
So one of the things that got me the job at MMR was I did a whole package, and it was like a magazine, and it wasn't so much a resume, but it had my picture, and it had a top 10 list, because Letterman was king back then. And, it had other pop culture references and stuff, and it broke through. And now every resume in radio and in every other company, it's read by a computer first. You got to get by a computer, and the computer sorts you out by what it's learned from this data set. And so it's just regenerating the same stuff again and again. So to even get a job in radio or get any job now, you know, you got to break through. You've got to refine your resume to speak to the computer. It's got to turn the computer on, which is weird, you know.
Yeah.
Especially given what it's been trained.
I mean, it
on.
really is.
Yeah. So I don't know where we're headed, but I don't.
None of us really do, right?
What's that?
None of us really do.
No,
right?
no. I mean,
but like,
yeah. Anybody
listening
says
to you, I know I was excited to hear all the radio conversation, but now we're like into this AI conversation,
right.
and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I'm here to bring the room down.
What the fuck is gonna happen?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hopefully other people will wise up to it. I mean, there's you know,
We got to get this show to everyone.
running through the streets ringing a bell. Yeah,
we're gonna hire we'll get an AI program to pump it out.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you know the YouTube algorithm will send you right to the top with this.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
But you know, listen, I thank you for coming on the show. But
No,
I do want to ask you. I do want to say something that I think is very important. Listening to your story from radio station. Well, first of all, 8 years old. You said you were in Massachusetts.
Man.
So 8 years old, you decided you had this dream. You had this idea. You went into the what was the store? It was a when you saw all the stuff
At the radio station.
It was a radio station.
Yeah.
So you go and you see all this, and you're like, this is what I want to do, and you get fired from one job or quit a job, and you didn't quit your career path.
Right.
And you went from place to place, some really good, some you're like, I didn't really like the ownership, but you stayed on the path that you wanted to do, and you did that through acquisitions, through, you know, losing a job, moving, relocating, constantly being, for lack of a better word, pushed down in your field, but you continue to excel and say, you know what, I'm not giving up. I'm still going to do this. And here we are sitting in Las Vegas, lovely Las Vegas, and you've been here, you said 18 years now?
Yeah.
And you're very happy, and you're playing songs on the highway radio that circle back to some of the fun times that you had.
Right.
I mean, that's some GSD shit right there.
Well, I mean,
I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, I mean, nothing in the bank account, no retirement whatsoever, but
doesn't matter. But you're happy.
A million great stories. I mean, broken family. I'm a horrible father. I mean, so many bad decisions, but a lot of good stories.
Yeah.
So,
but you seem happy though.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you can find any joy in your job, you know, I mean, that you got to find that. Because, you know, I mean, a huge paycheck certainly it brings a certain amount of happiness. But, you got to, the essence of the thing, you got to have some involvement, some passion for it, right?
Yeah.
You know? Or unless it's just a job that pays really well and you can totally not give a shit about it, and then you walk out and it's done.
Yeah.
I mean,
but those are pretty rare.
Yeah, there's not many of those.
They're going to pay you a bunch of money, and you can just stop at 5.
Right. Yeah.
And you're not thinking about that you go back in the morning.
Right.
Like, those are pretty rare.
Those jobs are, I think, gone. Yeah. They're
taken by AI.
Right. Yeah. The machines, man. The machines do those now. But yeah. But yeah, it's you got to kind of really be into what you're doing to keep doing and to make these sacrifices that I probably should have thought more about before I made them. But all in all, I think it's worked out all right. Yeah.
If you had any advice to any listeners that want to get into this career path,
don't.
Yeah, he said that at the top.
I know. I didn't.
Right
I was just seeing if he might have changed his mind after we started talking about, you know.
Yeah, don't. But if you really want to do it, you will. And I think new young creators can find a path. I thought it was competitive when I started.
It's a tough road.
But now it's crazy. Yeah.
But if you want to do it, you can do it.
If you want to do it, you can.
You're proof, man.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you're giving yourself credit. You're proof.
Well, I mean, you know, Don Stuck, who I used to work with on the air in Indianapolis, is now a fairly successful actor in Chicago. And we used to give him shit for being an idiot on the air every day. That was his character, and it was more of a character than really is him. A very talented individual. I mean,
also one of the greatest guitar players.
Great guitar, of one of the world's okayest guitar players I've ever met, and is now on, you know, all these different shows on television. So there's a guy you should talk to.
Yeah.
He's a very interesting cat. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're very interesting. And again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I know our listeners are going to love to hear your story because, again, about GSDing doesn't mean you get up every day and you have this, beautiful blue skies and there's no clouds and the sun's always shining on you. You've shared your story with us and the listeners to explain, listen, you're going to get knocked down, but you got to get up. Right. If it's what you really want to do, fucking just do it, right? Yeah. Stick with it.
Yeah.
Sir, thank you so much.
Yeah, pleasure.
We have a little, as we do back in our home studio, but even though we are in Las Vegas, I've got a little Everyday GSD shirt for you. I don't know which camera can see it.
Nice.
I think they all can.
All right.
But I really appreciate you.
Thanks, man.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's awesome to have you on the show, and have a great rest of your day, man.
Likewise, man.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks for watching the Everyday GSD podcast. Episodes come out on the 1st and 15th of the month. If you want to watch people or listen to people that Everyday GSD, please download and subscribe wherever you listen or watch the Everyday GSD podcast. Everyday GSD.